So when we're talking about finding the x and y intercepts, we have two rules that we must follow. And those rules are given by this. One, if we're finding the x-intercept, we must let y equal 0 and then solve. If we're looking for the x-intercept, the y-intercept, we must let x equal 0 and then solve for the remaining letter. Now, how do we go about that? Let me give you an example. So imagine we have y is equal to 5x plus 20. Now, if I want to find the x-intercept, what I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to clearly state that you're looking for the x-intercept, which means that our y is equal to 0, which means that when we go and look at this thing right here, our original equation, what we're going to do is we're literally just going to replace all y's with the number 0. So on this right side of this line here, we're going to get the following. So we just go and say, all right, we're going to use this equation and just restate it with all our y's in our equation to be 0. So now we're going to get the following. 0 equals 5x plus 20. And there we go. The next thing that we have to do is we have to move all our x's to the left and all our numbers to the right. So in this case, we're going to get minus 5x is equal to 20 minus 0. And 20 minus 0 is just 20, and we get minus 5x. And now we got to get the minus 5 off of there. So we divide both sides by negative 5, which goes and tells us that our x-intercept is the following. X equals negative 4 as our final answer. Now, the x-intercept on a line is also a point. So remember earlier we said that our y value was equal to 0. So I'm actually going to put 0 for the second point, for the second value of our point. And our x value in this case is minus 4. Now, let's just quickly go back here, which means that this is just x is equal to negative 4. And you just simplify and punch it in. Now, if I was looking at my graph, I would have my graph that looks like this, and I would literally have a point at negative 4, 0, and that would be my x-intercept. So that's the point for negative 4, 0, which is my x-intercept, which would be on that x-axis. Now, let's continue with the y-intercept. So if I wanted to find the y-intercept, that means that we're going to have the following. Again, if I have my y, then it's my x value that is 0. So x equals 0. So let's do our calculation. So now we're going to look back at our original equation, which is right here. And anywhere where we have an x, we're going to replace it with a 0. So let's replace everything with it. So we start on the left. We say y equals, well, 5 bracket 0. Anywhere a letter is replaced, we're going to put a bracket if there's a number that's attached to it. So in this case, we have to say 5 bracket 0. And then plus 20. Now, remember, this forces us to use BEDMAS. In this case, we're going to focus on looking at this part, the DM of BEDMAS. So you got to remember, 5 times 0 is 0. let's make sure we put like a nice little red marker here. Remember, anything times 0, 0 is 0. So 5 times 0 equals 0. 8 times 0 equals 0. 0 times 8 equals 0. It goes on forever. So now let's finish our problem. So now we have y is equal to, well, that's the first thing. That first multiplicative complex has to be multiplied. So we got 5 times 0 is 0 plus 20, which means our y value is 0 plus 20, which is 20, which means our y-intercept is y equals 20. Now, we have to go and say what a point is. So if I was looking at the point, I got to go look back and say, well, originally our x was 0, so that means this part's 0, which means our y value is 20, and there is our point. Now, if I was looking at my graph here, our point would be somewhere over here on our graph, somewhere on the y-axis for our y-intercept, and there would be 0, 20, and there is our graph. There is our graph with our 2 points. Okay. Now, when you're doing this, the only thing that you're going to do for this current assignment is get to here and here. Basically, you're just going to calculate and tell me what the x-intercept is and the y-intercept is, and then tell me the point. So those are the important things that you need to do. And you'll notice we always have to start by saying the x-intercept means y is equal to 0. And then we say for our y-intercept, x is equal to 0, and then solve.